Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, this is totally random, but one of my favourite Next Generation episodes, or Star Trek episodes, is Sub Rosa. And a lot of people hate Sub Rosa, and I don't quite know why. It's basically a pseudo-paranormal episode of Star Trek, and there were very few of those, and that's the problem with Star Trek. One of the problems with Star Trek, for me at least, as a horror fan, was because it was based in science, they couldn't really do ghost stories or paranormal stories, so they would usually find some way to do a ghost story or a zombie story and then have a scientific explanation for why an alien race has basically been turned into zombies or something appears to be the appearance of a ghost, So, but often they don't sort of take much of a gothic tone, whereas Sub Rosa, where Beverly, her grandmother, I think it's her grandmother, dies, and she goes down to where she lived, I think it was in Ireland, and she's like in her old home and it's all gothic and all that. They sort of went full genre with that, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. One of the other ones was Night Terrors. There's only a few others. There was the zombie episode of Enterprise. I can never remember what it was called, but it was during the year that they were in The Expanse. And then there was a couple of episodes like Night, where like the crew has to be put asleep so they can get through some sort of anomaly, and there's like one or two crew members up, usually the aliens who have a different immunity or different something, so they're up and they're like alone on the ship and they start to get paranoid and see things. There was an episode like that on Voyager, or no, that was Night. Enterprise did one as well, so you don't get many of these. And one of the most disappointing things about New Trek is when they threw out realistic science and stopped being a science fiction show and became a science fantasy show where they just did whatever they wanted and didn't base it in any sort of believable science or anything you'd usually get in a science fiction show like Star Trek. They didn't go and jump on the horror genre, which is one of the ways they could have salvaged themselves, was maybe having some sort of race of aliens that were like zombie-like or something like that. They could have done something interesting because they didn't have to care about realistic science or anything, because they just threw it out when they decided to be science fantasy, not science fiction. But they didn't do it. So I sort of realised, A, they didn't do that, and B, how disappointing that was, because that would have at least given me a few episodes I could have really enjoyed. I don't think they did anything horrific at all or anything genre at all. I think there's the one episode where Colbo is brought back because all the gays complained about them burying the gay, which they promoted so much, but then they killed him anyway, so then have to actually deal with the reality of having a gay couple on their show and all the negative media, so they killed him off, but then they had to bring him back because they got more negative media from doing that than they think they would have had from having the guy on the show, particularly since they realised their audience, that wasn't their audience, so they brought him back. But that episode had a little element of that where they had another dimension that they were in. There's a scene where Tilly wakes up and she's stuck inside like this sort of pod sort of thing, and there's a little bit of that, and that's about it. Out of 4 seasons now we've seen, I'm guessing there's going to be nothing in the 5th season because it's basically an Indiana Jones knockoff. That's sort of what I hear. So yeah, I just sort of had that sort of a moment of realising, sort of thinking about, it's a pity Star Trek couldn't do more horror. They did a couple of horror themed shows in the original series as well, but they had a hard time with it because, being based in science, they couldn't really indulge that too much. But then since Discovery just discarded science, they could have taken advantage of that and done some more interesting and fun genre shows and genre, but they didn't do it. So I just want to talk about that little epiphany, that little moment I had of realising that, and then being disappointed by the potential that they threw out. At least we would have gotten something out of throwing out the science. We could have at least gotten some genre. Sorry, Wonder Woman needed some attention. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Yeah, why don't people like Sub Rosa? I don't get it. I mean, I can't see anything about it that isn't, like, fun. It's my favourite. And another one is Genesis. A lot of people like that one, though. And that's not based in supernatural. It's like monsters. But you get the point. I'm going to go.